Hello, everybody. How are we doing today? Good? I've been hearing stories this morning about how traffic's been, so hopefully it dies down a little bit later for everybody traveling outside of Dallas. Well, we have a great panel lined up today. We have all of our speakers ready. Why don't you all go introduce yourselves, starting with Jonathan.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Jonathan Thorpe. I live here in Dallas. I support a company that probably more and more of you are starting to hear more and more about, and that's Quantum Connections.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anitha, Ramesh. I work for a tech company, tech services company. I've been in HR for about 23 years, primarily in the tech space, so excited to be here.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa Jennings. I work at Bloomberg here in the Dallas office. I'm the global HR manager for all of our news and media employees around the world. And I work with a team to really support them in their full life cycle and to work with our managers to support the business.
So hola, konnichiwa, bonjour, ni hao, ciao, guten tag, assalamu alaikum, and hello. My name is Jamone Smith, Vice President of HR and Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for a company called Agility Healthcare. And I'm also excited to be here today.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. And as a starter question, please tell us briefly, what's one key to your personal sense of workplace productivity or one thing that helps you stay productive? Start with Jonathan.
All right. I'll keep it simple. For me, it's hydration. You know, we hear all the time about making sure you stay hydrated. You know, if you remember that we're 2/3 water, this is one of the first things that lends to lack of focus and irritability and headaches. And so it's probably the first thing I remind myself to make sure I'm topped off and hydrated throughout the day. And that helps me keep myself productive.
I agree to that. And over and above that, my thing to keep productivity high is taking extreme ownership. You know, we all live in a distributed world. You know, our manager is not sitting with us. Our coworkers are not sitting with us all the time. Unless you take ownership of the situation, you know, things cannot go the way you want or the company wants.
For me, what drives productivity is also what drives what motivates you as a person. Finding a purpose in what you do every day that's, for me, helpful to others, whether I'm helping a person develop on my team or whether I'm helping a manager figure out how to solve something or making something easier for someone who's experiencing an issue. To me, having a bigger purpose other than just myself, some understanding why you're doing something, for me, drives my productivity and my motivation.
Similar in terms of motivation. Also, I would add in, early on in my career, I learned the importance of operating with a high sense of urgency mindset. From a best practice standpoint, I think 24 hours is the return time for you getting back with your customer, both internal and external. Well, mine's is more 3 to 4 hours. So that doesn't mean I have a solution in 3 to 4 hours. That means I get back and make sure that that customer knows I've received your information and I'm working on it, or I may have a solution at the end of the day. And I've learned that's created trust, that's created credibility, and that's created value. So that would be mine.
Absolutely. And I want to go back to that hydration answer, Jonathan. Mine is water as well, but sometimes it's replaced with coffee, which I should be better about, but it keeps me up. So moving on to the next question, Jonathan, we're going to start with you again. How do you boost engagement with your employees? And what can managers do to prevent disengagement?
Great question. And all morning I heard lots about that organizations now need to address disengagement, that it's never been worse. But I think a very important question that sits in front of how do you engage or re-engage is, have you addressed the factors in your organization that caused disengagement in the first place? Because if you're not careful, you could drop your people back into the exact same environment that caused disengagement in the first place. And so making sure you take stock, are the objectives of the work at hand clearly defined? Are the resources clearly articulated? And most importantly, is the culture aligned with what you're trying to do and what you're actually evidencing in your workspace? So I think once you've answered all those questions, I think you now might be ready to go ahead and build a campaign on re-engagement. And once you do that, I think it's important you also build a strategy. What does the strategy involve? Well, what's important about re-engagement? Why are we doing it? And most importantly, not just that we need to re-engage, because you hear that all the time. People will tell their employees, it's time to re-engage, and we expect to see it. But too little effort is made to how do we actually re-engage? And so that's what I think is very important, either to build in strategy before a re-engagement campaign, or actually to outsource that. Find a company like a Quantum Connections that actually helps organizations build the how do you re-engage campaign. The second half of your question I think is important too, and that was how do you prevent disengagement? And what I love about that is that might not be the problem to solve, because I think you want disengagement in your organization. You hopefully never want to see it, but you need it to be present to be a signal for when things are broken and people start to demonstrate disengagement, because that's when I now need to act and respond to those variables. So that's probably how I would answer that question.
Absolutely. Anitha, do you want to go next?
One other thing I would add to what Jonathan said is making employees see the purpose. How is what they are doing contributing the overall growth of the company? And that can be achieved only through constant communication, leadership communication. You know, a lot of engagement is driven through communication where the leader is able to get out there, see how their work is meaningfully perceived and translates to the bottom line.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think it's important to invest in people. I think based on what motivates somebody, it may be developing in a new area, giving them a stretch opportunity. For some, it may be compensation, but just understanding what motivates different people and investing in that for those people where possible, I think drives that engagement.
I would add one thing I'll leave you with from an engagement standpoint is ensuring that the leaders or the managers are carving out valuable time one-on-one with their employees to where it's about the employee. What's working, what's challenging, and how can I help you? And if they stick to that consistently, studies show that's probably the number one driver of engagement in terms of the tools that are afforded to a manager conducting those one-on-ones.
Absolutely. And again, this kind of goes into my next question, because I feel like the points that you just hit kind of go into employee well-being as well as just workplace wellness in general. Now, Lisa, Bloomberg has a huge emphasis in this area specifically. Can you talk a bit about the connection between employee well-being, engagement, and productivity?
Sure. So one of the programs that we have that I want to share is called a mental health advocate program. We give all of our employees the opportunity, if they want, to be trained and certified in mental health awareness. We bring in an outside provider, and it gives people the ability to go through, I believe it's about a half-day rigorous training and an exam. And once they're certified, they're basically able to be eyes and ears in our offices, so that they can be aware of and see when and if there are people who are exhibiting signs of needing support from either a mental health or a substance abuse issue. So this gives, I think, twofold support. One is we give employees the opportunity to be these advocates and to play a role in this space to help ensure that our workplace provides this type of wellness. And it also gives those employees who aren't advocates the knowledge that there are people out there that have their eyes and ears open and are looking out for you if you are experiencing any type of issues that require any type of resources. So it's a great program. We've seen a lot of participation in it, and we offer it globally based on the specific nuances of that jurisdiction. It may change and the providers are different, but it's an opportunity for our employees to really get engaged and spend time in an area that's obviously different from their day job, but it gives them a sense of empowerment and a bit of a role in the workforce beyond their day-to-day.
And I want to throw this question out to the rest of the panelists too. Jamon, what are you specifically looking for in terms of the connection between employee well-being, engagement, and productivity, similar to what Lisa has implemented at Bloomberg?
Good question. So I would say from a mental health standpoint, one of the big resources, and you're familiar with this, is EAP, So we probably over communicate the EAP resource more than anything. So people understand it doesn't necessarily have to be a disaster per se, but just again, helping with your mental health, helping with your mom or dad, trying to balance work life, your kids at home and coming to work. So those are the things I would add to Lisa's story.
To add to that, engaging with your EAP vendor or your insurance vendors a little more than what you do currently, understanding the underlying issues. What are the top trends are you seeing from our workforce? Obviously, for various privacy reasons, they'll not share individual specific information, but what are the common themes? Where is the problem lying within the workforce? And then, rolling out specific programs also has helped us.
Jonathan?
Nothing.
Good. Awesome. Alrighty, so I want to get into a big question. As today, as we know, technology continues to advance in the workplace. We're constantly seeing new initiatives, new innovations that we are seeing demanded more in the workplace for our employees. First to Anitha, I do want to ask, how are you implementing new processes and training employees to take on said new tools and technology? And how do you ensure those employees know that these resources are available to them?
Okay. So we are a global company. We are spread across 90 countries and about 120,000 plus or minus across these 90 countries. US specifically, we are about 5,000, again, spread across the country, right? So the team, either the HR team or the L&D team, is not face-to-face with the employees, all the time. So while we stick to the fundamentals, employees are made clear on what kind of training programs, tools are available out there. The mode of communication differs, because of such distributed workforce we have. So there are various initiatives that we, do. I just made a note of some of the interesting things that we do. Spotlight series, we pick up a leader that has excelled in a certain area, have the employee do, road shows, travel out there, meet the employees, talk about, new tools and, how they can use those tools to improve productivity. So Spotlight series, primetime shows where we get industry experts. We've made our leaders speak with them. Now we get leaders from the industries out there, go meet with the employees, talk to them. We also have launched something called Ask Me Anything, where it's not a monologue. We encourage employees to kind of query, subject matter experts on various topics. All of these things, where possible, happens in person or virtually. And of course, road shows. So what we do is create a calendar out there. There are programs that runs, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and it is published out there in the company intranet. And it's also included in the new hire packet, right? And all of them have a hashtag. So employees are able to relate the content to the hashtag and say, okay, this is a monthly program and, this is where I want to go. So there are bite-sized learnings, and then, all of them have a company mobile app where, they're able to quickly register and, download a course quickly. So providing various options, to a distributed workforce is a key in my view.
Absolutely. Jonathan, I want to throw you the same question. How does implementing new processes and training employees to take on new tools at Quantum help boost productivity?
I think we try to make sure we're context aware, and we try to ask the folks that we work with and coach, how did this experience go last time? I mean, it sounds like an intuitive question, but so many times as technology is integrated, not if, but when it's repeatedly integrated, that we repeat some of the same mistakes. And people say, well, I don't know how this happened. We communicated exactly what we were doing. And I think the mistake is a lot of people make claiming that communication is a constant entity. It's a known, it's the same thing for all of us. But as you all know, communication can be great, it can be terrible, and anything in between. And so we want to make sure that when we communicate what the new technology, the tool, the training is we actually have a two-way dialogue to ask the users, what's your expected outcome and what do you need in terms of resources, training, and time to actually pull off a successful launch? It's not just about utility, it's about the entire UX range. It's about the holistic experience. So if somebody comes along and delivers a technology that might shave a 20-second process to a 10-second process, but actually install another 15 or 20 seconds and a second password that you have to do, or a multiple app pathway that now frustrates your employees, you haven't gained anything. And so making sure the communication is rich and interactive and dialogic is critical for training and technology.
Absolutely. And I want to follow up on this question just because I feel like technology is so forward-looking. We know when we kind of don't know how it's going to go. We're just kind of taking it day by day, which is a good thing and can also be a bad thing. But I do find it's important as you all as leaders, since we are learning as we're kind of going, have there been any challenges on your end as a leader to learn as well as implement kind of at the same time? Jamon, I'm going to start with you.
Yes, I would say, I think you all would agree with that. Change is the most common thing that you'll encounter, but people don't like change at the end of the day. So especially when it comes to technology, right? So it's amazing how my daughter, Lauren, who's 14 years old, has no problem navigating through technology, but that's all she knows. But dad, on the other hand, started with cell phone, kind of evolved to computer, etc. So anytime there's a change, it definitely takes a while to adjust, but the outcome, the end goal is always what? To move the business forward. So yeah, there may be some noise in the beginning, but as long as you stay the course and meet people where they are, I like what you said, Jonathan, about communication is different. Everybody's at kind of a different path. Some may be ahead of the curve. You leverage them to definitely bring the rest of the team along. You got some that are just hanging on by a thread, and you got to reinforce it's going to be okay. Let me show you. We made it through this before.
Awesome. Lisa?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's super important, and I push myself. We've recently rolled out AI. I'm sure all of you are experimenting with it, but I push myself to try it and put in different things, and I push my team to also do that and for us to share so that we can learn from what works, what doesn't work, and we can, work with each other to see, like, experimenting with different things, like how can we synthesize data, how can we spit out maybe like an agenda for a summit. Like, it's an incredible tool, and I think there's so much opportunity there to use this and to cut down our time. I've had to get past the thought of cheating. Like, I feel almost like my inclination is that if I use this tool, I'm cheating. But it is what it is, and we're expected to know how to use it to make our work quicker. And it absolutely is pretty incredible what it does. But I will say that I do need to push myself into that, like, discomfort, and rely on my team to share.
Absolutely.
So
great. Alrighty, well, Jamon, your company mantra is the team with the best leaders wins, right? So what are your thoughts about how to attract talent and support the development of the best leaders? And what unique qualities do you seek in your leaders?
Good question. So I'll start first with attracting talent. I'll give you kind of 2 to 3 examples. The first being starting with organizations that build a culture of service, a culture of engagement. So typically when you have engaged employees, they're proud of what they do. They're proud of where they work. So they're the best recruiters, if you will, for the company, because they're saying, hey, man, it's awesome to be here. I love what I do. And they're engaging their colleagues and their friends and say, you want to check out agility, right? So where I'm going with that is referrals. About 20% of our jobs that we fill are based on referrals. And typically retention is improved when people are referred. Turnover is reduced when people are referred to the company from someone that they know. The second example I'll give you is I was able to stand up a sourcing team. So you're probably saying, tall guy, so what's the big deal about standing up a sourcing team? The big deal about standing up a sourcing team is, number one, it saved us about close to $1 million in external agency spend. Number two, it reduced our time to hire. And number three, probably the most important, it enabled us to hire and upgrade our talent at the end of the day. Why? Because by having internal sourcers, they could partner daily with their hiring managers to understand what their needs are and what exactly are they looking for. So when we were sourcing, we were intentional about what we were doing and laser focused because we knew what the managers were looking for. And third, I would say more for the frontline employees, it's about postings. So like Indeed, and just meeting that talent or future candidates where they are and telling the story about Agility, who's a top manufacturer, right? Mm-hmm. And service provider for medical and surgical solutions. Thank you.
Jonathan, I want to throw you the same question. What are your thoughts on how to attract talent while supporting the development of your best leaders?
If I were to ask, 10 people, how do you attract the best talent? You actually have to find people that want to align with your mission and your vision and what truly is the object of the work at hand. And does that particular person find that fulfilling? Do they find alignment in that? I think in order to do that, leaders have to appreciate that if they're going to go ahead and deliver an environment that is attractive to candidates, they have to manage the amount of change at hand, at present. And as you know, you mentioned it, no one likes change, Jamon. If I'm thinking about attracting quality candidates, I've got to actively manage the amount of change that I present to my force. And like I mentioned, change has a finite equity budget. You can only spend so much change before your workforce becomes exhausted and fatigued and now anxious about the changes that are planned or coming. And so I think you want to make sure if you're managing your environment to make it as attractive as possible to candidates, also pay attention to the stability dividend that you also have. So in the months in between these change campaigns, take advantage of when things are not changing and let people take stock and say, you know what, I enjoy this environment because I appreciate that change is always present, but this company actually allows me to enjoy the times when it's not. And I think that's a worthwhile thing to remember.
Awesome. I don't know if you want me to add on to the leadership part. So I kind of started with attracting talent. And I think the second part of the question was around leadership. So two things there. One would be robust succession planning. So we equip our leaders to assess and develop their workforce. So they've always got their eye on the prize and making sure they got the right people in the right place at the right time. So that's one thing that we do. And then the other piece we would do is for our new hires that are coming in as first-time leaders to the organization and those that are promoted from within, we've got a robust leadership development program to where we're almost kind of feeding them in, but making sure we align with their leaders first and have a conversation and say, hey, we see Jamon just started 30 days ago. We got him set up to enroll in this class. Are you aligned? Is everything okay? Yeah, absolutely. And we set a goal about 30% of our leaders, new leaders to get trained. We exceeded that and got it to 50%, which led to what? Increase in engagement.
Great. Anitha?
I would agree with everything Jamon and
perfect.
Jonathan have to add.
I do want to follow up, specifically when we're talking about these qualities that you are looking for in attracting talent, retaining leadership, building leaders as well within your company. Are these qualities innate or can these develop over time?
Good question. So I'll start by saying this initially. First, I think two things that I see that make leaders, good to great. The first is their ability to communicate from their peers to their direct reports and then to the C-suite. That takes a unique skill. They may be able to influence their direct reports by nature because they're my direct reports. But it's another skill to be able to influence your peers and then be able to influence the C-suite. So I would say that's definitely a skill that I've seen where great leaders are successful. They can inspire, they can motivate, they can get people to move even when they don't want to move at the end of the day. The other thing I would say about great leaders is their ability to listen at the end of the day. There's so much noise, as we all know in this room. You're getting phone calls, you're getting home life. There's so much that can distract you. But those that are successful leaders, I've seen the ability to stop, pause, be present, and listen. I'll leave you with an acronym. It's called EARS. The E is for explore. The A is for analyze. The R is for respond. And the S is to make it stick. Explore, analyze, respond, make it stick. Where do you think most managers hang out at? Respond. I know it. I've seen it. They respond instead of taking a step back at the end of the day. So those are two things. And then to follow up with their question around, okay, so is it born, Jamon, or do you learn it? I've seen a mixture of both. I've seen some that just have it innate, but I've seen some that are hungry, open-minded. They just need what? The right leader.
Absolutely. Anitha, I'm going to ask you this next question first. When it comes to global workforces and distributed teams, what are some best practices and principles that you believe help foster a deeper sense of connectivity and stronger lines of team communication?
Making employees feel connected as such is a challenge, and the challenge triples, when you deal with distributed workforce, especially if they are distributed across the globe. One key thing to make employees feel connected is when they have a feeling that your company cares for you, right? There is TechM. So though my employees are not, physically present in the TechM office, we go by TechM. It's important for them to get a sense that the company is thinking about me. So we achieve these through various means. One of the initiatives that stands out for me is WOW, an initiative that we launched. WOW stands for Wealth of Wellness. Lisa, you talked about your mental health program. The company has taken one step forward in providing a holistic wellness approach. That's why we call it WOW. And it provides wellness in 9 different dimensions. Of course, we know about, mental well-being. We all know about financial well-being. There are companies that offer various financial support programs, mental health programs. We took a step forward. We provide 9 different types: emotional, physical well-being, through insurance and all other sorts of programs, spiritual well-being, occupational well-being, social well-being. In fact, we went to the extent of getting psychiatrists on board in countries where possible, and then have them meet with our employees, do sessions with them. So that's one way. And because we also deal with a lot of distributed workforce, we created something called as location councils. Right? These location councils act as an extended arm of HR. You cannot have a HR person sitting in 300 different locations. So these location councils, they come from within the business organization. They are empowered with, some amount of budget and also with tools and resources. So they are able to create that small community, small company kind of setup and replicate some of the larger programs that happen at a corporate level.
Absolutely. And kind of following up on that program, I do want to get more into the programs that you all have implemented at your companies. I'm sure our audience would love to hear different ways that they can do the same. So there are many programs and initiatives that companies can implement to support leadership development, as well as promote internal growth, which we're all trying to achieve, right? So what are some specific programs or methodologies that you have had success implementing to boost productivity, leadership growth, learning development? And I'm gonna start with Lisa first. Can you share a bit about the Embed program at Bloomberg?
Sure. So one of the programs that we have across our newsrooms is called Embed. And what it provides is in your 4th year at our company, you're given the opportunity to spend time in another role in the newsroom. So you can request to spend time in the TV space if you're usually with our .com platform, or you can move from reporting on transportation to reporting on markets. You have an opportunity to figure out, the managers will work together to figure out what the schedule can be, but you really do have this chance to spend time, and it could be formulated in different ways. It could be you spend 2 months on a different team. It could be you spend 2 days a week on a different team. It really just depends on the amount of availability that the receiving manager has to provide an opportunity to an additional person, as well as the constraints of the current team. But it's really a way for us to drive retention, drive people to feel like we're investing in them, We're giving them an opportunity to explore something internally. And it also leads to, down the road, internal mobility opportunities if people have a good experience or realize something that they like that's different than what they've been doing, or maybe find a role that they don't want to do and they know that that's not an area to explore in the future. But it's really been a great motivator for people and a great way for people to explore different internal roles instead of us losing people to the market. So the 4-year mark was specifically chosen because it's sort of the meat of where we lose people. So 3 to 5 years is really where we see the retention issues spiking. So that 4-year period is sort of the sweet spot for this program. So it's been, like I said, it's been a great motivator, and people know that they have that opportunity at 4 years. So they do look forward to it.
One initiative that that stands out for me, we did this couple years back with the objective to improve cross-cultural, cross-team collaboration. And we also wanted to tie that to wellness, right? So, we worked with our insurance provider, and, they had this app that they developed for us. We called for about 800 volunteers from different teams. Most of them have not worked with each other, have not met with each other. So what they were given is Apple Watch, and then they were put into 10 different teams. What they have to do is to earn the watch over a period of 6 months. So they have to show that they are, working out, meeting as groups, do these weekend events, also combine that with CSR, where they meet in a park, clean up a beach and things like that. Over a 6 months period, they have to earn certain number of points, to earn the watch that were given free by the company. And then if at the end of the program, if they were not able to reach the point, then, of course, they had to put in their credit card information in the app. So, we charged them. So that kind of drove people to kind of stay on track. So what this help does is, one, it checked the box on the wellness space. And number two, people got to meet a lot of distributed teams, who they would otherwise not meet at all. So it was a grand success in my view. A lot of people to date talk about this Fitbit watch-based program.
Jamon, I kind of want you to touch on Talent Tuesdays at Agility. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. So Talent Tuesdays came about doing our engagement survey. So one of our top 3 action items was around the workforce saying, hey, we need to have more opportunities to understand what does career advancement or career opportunities look like within Agility. So we were thinking about how could we showcase all of our different business units, educate the workforce on what that looks like, but most importantly, how do I enter into one of those business units from my current situation? What does that look like? Show me exactly what role I would go into. Let me see what the job looks like, and let me hear from the hiring manager on what that looks like. So think about it now. So we're in 48 states, about 6,000 employees plus. How do we do that effectively so everyone's included? So we came up with this remote way of communicating. We recorded all of the events. The Talent Tuesday came about because we do it during the summer every Tuesday at a certain time. We would actually have these events. So we'd have the leader of our surgical equipment repair. He would kind of give an overview of what that means to the organization. Then he or she would bring on their frontline leaders and say, hey, we're looking for this role. Here's the primary skill set we're looking for this role. Here's what it looks like. And again, the goal was to improve engagement, obviously improve retention. And so far, we're definitely hitting the mark. We just kind of launched this piece of it, but very exciting. We tweaked it along the way to where it's more inclusive. So we're showcasing our diverse talent, if you will. But that's Talent Tuesdays in a nutshell.
Awesome. It's great to hear about those programs that are being implemented. I know everybody, as any workplace, is looking for new ways to boost not only their own productivity, but their accomplishments too. I feel like that's a big driver for that as well. So I believe we have time for one more question. if you could provide our audience of HR professionals with one tip or takeaway based on your experience in the last 5 years or so, or something that would help them foster a greater team, better retention, more productivity within their companies. Jonathan, I'm going to start with you first.
I think if I can distill it all down to one question, I love to ask everyone on my team, and I love to coach the folks that we help out in the business world, one question, and that's asking them, do I feel seen and heard by my supervisor? Do I feel seen and heard? It sounds so simple, but on those two fundamental dimensions, I'll know right away whether or not I'm paying individual attention to each person on the team. Are they seen for their uniqueness and all of their differences and welcomed in this work team environment? And are they heard? Are they actually welcome, and do they feel safe, psychologically safe, to go ahead and throw out an idea and not feel at risk that they'll either be punished or stymied in some way? So I think the one thing I'd learn as a tip perhaps to pass along is keep that question on the front of your mind for all of your HR teams and for the folks that you guys coach in your businesses. Do I feel seen and heard by my supervisor? Critical question.
Anitha?
So, coming from the tech industry, the amount of changes that have happened in the tech industry over the last 5 years is phenomenal. More than 30% of the jobs that we had about 5 years ago is not there anymore. Does not mean employees were sent off. They are doing something else right now. And because of all the remote hiring that has happened over the last 4 years during the pandemic, and I tried to not use the word, it just came out. We are dealing with a totally new set of workforce. So especially for my teams, the HR teams, the traditional way of working has to change. While I encourage them to think about new ways of doing, some of it has to be mandated. For example, the AI adoption. The company empowered all of us with, co-pilot licenses. I've been telling my team softly, gently, hey, let's start using AI and start using, co-pilot and other tools. Nothing big happens, right? Now we are, shifting gears and trying to make it part of their KRAs, to use some of these tools and some of these transformative methodologies as part of their mandatory goals. So making it sound like there's no choice for us, we cannot wait for the technology to come take over us is important. And, practitioners have to think about it a lot.
Lisa?
Sure. So my response is similar to Jonathan's. It's making sure people feel valued and that you see them as a human being that has maybe issues that they need flexibility one day or they need support in another way. It's making people feel, I think, that that you care about them, that you're not just here to churn out work, but that you're viewed as a person and that you're being invested in by the organization and by the leader, and that people feel that they're a person first before a worker.
Yeah.
Jimon?
I would say, as far as productivity and driving culture, I would say stay engaged and curious about your company's mission. Our mission is, at Agility, every interaction has the power to change a life. So again, we're healthcare, so everything we do impacts someone's life at the end of the day. So a lot of people come to Agility because of the mission, but it's easy to lose sight in the noise about the mission and staying productive. So one of the ways that I stay engaged with the mission is I constantly try to stay out in the field, to stay close to our technicians, to understand what they need, how we can support them and make sure they've got the resources, the value that they seeking out and why they came to Agility in the first place. So the first thing I try to do is eye contact. How can I help? What are we doing wrong? Where are we missing the boat? Those are the things I kind of focus on. Stay engaged with the mission. Stay curious about the mission.
Awesome. Well, that's the end of our panel on new essentials of worker productivity that's sustainable and attainable. Panelists, thank you guys so much. Audience, can you please give our panelists a round of applause for their time?